I have been waiting for this one. You may know today's guest from her song Mother, Mother, because you may remember singing that song at the top of your lungs in your bedroom in the 90s. And it resurfaced recently on Yellow Jackets. And when you heard that, you may have felt that whole body flashback. You know, the one where you hear a song that you haven't heard in a while and everything just comes back. The memories, the fun times, the being in your teen years, and just living life. But today's conversation, it's not just about nostalgia. It's about voice. It's about women being labeled too much. It's about anger, healing, motherhood, divorce, reinvention, breast cancer, and what happens when you finally stop holding things in. This year marks 30 years since The Burdens of Being Upright was released. 30 years. And instead of shrinking from that milestone, Tracy Bonham is stepping directly into it with a residency of shows called Where It All Began and a renewed sense of fire. In this episode, we talk about what it felt like to be called the angry woman in the 90s, how the industry tried to shape her, how motherhood and divorce reshaped her, and why using her voice right now in this cultural moment feels more important than ever. If you've ever been told to tone it down, or to stay in your lane, or just to be quiet, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Midlife Edit. You may know my guest today from her hit song Mother, Mother, but did you know she's also a classically trained violinist, a pianist? She's a self-taught guitarist, she's a mom, and she uses her voice for all things amazing. Welcome to the show, Tracy Bonham.
Hi, that's nice. I love that intro.
Yeah, so excited to have you here. Of course, I was a big fan in the 90s and still am now. The way you perform on stage, especially lately with your violin, is just so inspiring and exciting. Like, I just get like chills when I see you up there. It's awesome and amazing. And I just kind of want to dive right in and start with the music industry because this is the Midlife Edit and we talk to women, mostly women. A lot of men listen too, but women in the 90s is something that I bring up a lot. We talk about how we didn't have a voice. We talk about how we were put so much pressure on to be skinny and do what you needed to do and say the right things and don't say too much. So let's talk about when you first entered the music industry and how it felt like to try to take up space as a woman, especially someone with strong emotions and lyrics.
Wow, that's great questions. And I'm talking a lot about this very thing in my shows as I celebrate my 30th anniversary of my debut album. So this is great. Good for me to practice. But, I also grew up with the belief that I should be taking a back seat, the man, defer to the man, father knows best. And I came from a long line of, I call them holder inners, like all of the women that I know, my grandma, my mom, they would hold stuff in, to their detriment. And I got that as well. So the only way I knew how to express myself honestly would be through song or on stage performing. Because in real life, conflict was just, I couldn't handle conflict. And I'm still dealing with it at my age. Conflict is like the big, bad, evil monster that I'm trying to dispel this belief that it's so scary, but it's a lifetime, it's like unlearning, right? So thank God I became a musician. Thank God. I saw my mother on stage actually when I was around 4. And that was when I thought, okay, that's how I'm going to express myself. She was larger than life. Meanwhile, off stage, she really didn't have a voice. So I knew that was my ticket. And so then when I started writing songs, I picked up the guitar and I screamed a little bit. The music industry just kind of, about face. I felt like I'd been heard. For once in my life, I'd been heard. But unfortunately, I didn't have the tools yet to really withstand the pressure and the questions and the minimizing, being kind of labeled as angry woman. I couldn't handle being labeled just one thing. And I think I was a reluctant feminist. I have feminist values, but I didn't know how to speak out because, again, I think a lot of us were taught that if you speak up, you're either, you're unattractive, which was kind of important to me when I was younger, unattractive, or you're hysterical, or you're just flat out wrong, or it's, too harsh. So I think so many of us we would recoil. And that's exactly what I did after my scream. Everything's fine. People would say, why do you hate your mom? Why are you so angry? What do you have to be angry about? And I really shied away from those questions because I wanted to be thought of as an artist, not just an angry woman. So it's taken me this long to even admit and say something like, hell yeah, I actually am angry. And that's okay because I'm not just angry.
Yeah, that's okay. And
And
that's
that's,
okay. And I love that. When you started, I think, I read you were 27
yeah,
when your first album came out. So
yeah,
when you started and you're learning the music industry, which I tell my listeners all the time, all I wanted to be when I grew up was Gem, like Gem and the Holograms,
oh yeah,
but I can't sing. So but I look back at, especially, women in the 90s with the Lilith Fair and everything coming up, that we were starting to become stronger and stronger
mm,
as a gender, but also as a community.
mhm.
But then there was still these side things like, okay, you may have been labeled the angry woman, but now you have to dress up and put on
Oh,
the bubblegum pop things, and you have to do things the way we say you have to do them. How did
mhm,
that affect you as a young woman in
mhm.
this industry, and knowing that this is what you wanted to do for your life, but they were telling you how you had to be?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so difficult because you have to be really strong, and then you have to, if you somehow defy, that whole ideology or whatever, then you could be cast aside, So I was caught between, I did want to look sexy, and I tried to look sexy, and I thought I probably did look sexy, but um, yeah, there was so much focus on that. Um, After my first album, that cycle was over, and I was gearing up for my second album, which is a long story. It took forever, but I had this new team. My whole record label was new, and they, it was, I think my A&R guy was the guy that signed Britney Spears. So I remember one time I leaned over, I dropped my napkin at dinner or whatever, and he was like, yeah, girl. And, so these are now the people I'm dealing with, which was unlike what I had, started with in the mid 90s, where I felt like we were a little bit more accepted for who we were. We were encouraged to be, I mean, yes, there's always going to be that stigma, and, but we were encouraged to be more ourselves and unique. And then as, 1998 and the year 2000 came, it was just like, nope, you're supposed to be sexy. And we're only going to let like maybe Alanis Morissette can come through the door of the angry one. We just have one. And then everyone else, needs to just go sit and wait. And yeah, it's kind of terrible what they put us through.
That's, yeah, yuck.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like that women in the music industry are conditioned differently than men, obviously. I mean, we talk about that all the time
Yeah.
in society, but especially around that anger or confidence. Like, if you come out as this woman who, you know what your lyrics are and you know how you want to sing and what you want to sing,
Mm,
how do you think that kind of based or helped or hurt your career
mm.
in that record label that you went to? And I think it was what, 2000, right? You said.
Oh, well, let's see. I actually signed to my record label like in 93 or 94. And then I stayed for too long. And long story. I can't complain too much because I was very lucky to have, what I had. But they did, corporate mergers were taking place around the year 2000. And my label was joined with Def Jam. So it was a completely like very strange pairing. Um, I forgot the question, except that I forgot the question.
How do you think that it maybe helped or hurt your career?
Oh, right. Oh, by having song
Not
lyrics. Okay.
necessarily your career, but like how you viewed
Oh,
your music at that time.
oh yeah. Well, I hadn't been a songwriter for very long. I picked up the guitar when I was like maybe 24, 25, started writing some songs, and then boom, like overnight success. And so all I really had, my one trick pony, if you call it, my little one party trick, was angry songs, and strong lyrics, and I don't have to fake it and all this. And I think I wish I would have had more of a catalog and more a confidence as a songwriter and artist before all of that fame happened, because um, I didn't really know where to pull from. And as the music business was changing, and um, I realized, my first two albums are all complaining. They're all angry songs about either my ex-boyfriend or my jerk manager, who was very misogynist, So I thought, I was like, you know what? This is not actually serving me. Not because I'm afraid to be, to kind of call people on their shit in song. I can't do it in real life, but in song, I could tell you, you're fucking up or whatever. But, and, talk to all the misogynists in my life in my songs. But I realized that this isn't, first of all, I don't want to leave a legacy behind of me just, kind of bitching and moaning all the time. Things were happening in my life in the early 2000s, like, September 11th happened, and I got a divorce, and my mom became sick, and I didn't want to leave a bunch of like bitchy songs. So I started to go inward, and I think I was quite depressed, and I was questioning everything, and the music business, I couldn't get arrested, basically, Um, and so I decided I was going to kind of look within and write songs from the heart that weren't trying to prove anything. So that was a bit of I don't know, I just had to go through that wormhole and kind of change my attitude a little bit. And I realized now, when I look back, like that energy and the anger, the energy you can still you can alchemize, and you can create something amazing and beautiful. But I don't want to bitch and moan anymore.
Yeah. And I understand that. But you said something about
Mm,
you weren't a songwriter until you picked up a guitar.
mhm,
But, however, I saw a little clip of I think it was pretty recent, of one of the shows that you did that
mhm.
you read out of your journal when
Oh,
you were
yeah.
14.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you may have not been a songwriter, but you know how to write.
Oh, that's sweet.
You know how to write your feelings and your emotions, and I think that's so important. Especially, I'm a mom, but I'm also a stepmom of a 12-year-old little girl
Okay.
who is trying to find her own voice, not musically, but inside. And she's so nervous to stand up in front of people and do presentations.
Yeah.
But if you have her behind a camera, girl can do. So it's kind of the same thing. And
Totally the same.
talking about thinking, oh, I wasn't a songwriter, but you always were.
Okay.
And I think that's one thing that we talk about, reinventing ourselves in midlife, but it's
Mhm.
always inside of us, right?
I love that. Absolutely.
Especially for what you just said. Yes, maybe your breakout song was an angry song,
Mhm.
but you dove deep and you did what you loved and you spoke about it. And that's redefining yourself all the time. I
Yeah.
love it so much. Your music just, it ebbs and flows in a way that I think a lot of women get. We've all been in different situations, whether it's through the divorce or being sick or having a sick parent or something that you can just kind of relate to and breathe, you know?
Yeah.
So, along those lines, um, you became a mother 14, 15 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Eight-
2010. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, how do you think that plus your relationships, because I know that you've been in some, I mean, you've spoken about
Mhm.
terrible boyfriends and you've been divorced and, as well, I've been divorced and have had those bad relationships. But between that and being a mother, how has that shaped your music now? You
Mhm.
just came out with a new album last year. Is it something that kind of flowed into that?
Oh yeah. I mean, motherhood can, I mean, it changes you, right? It changes every part of your DNA, it feels like, right? And because I am, I guess, a highly creative person, it was definitely going to influence my writing and my creativity and my productivity. Actually, wasn't, it actually affected it in the negative in a way because it's so hard to get anything done when you're a mom of a young kid, right? But eventually I just started writing. I have a couple albums there where it's all about either waiting for my son because we adopted, or actually I couldn't get pregnant, honestly. It was like I was approaching 40 and trying to get pregnant. And then had to do like all of that IVF, and that didn't work out. And it was, so a lot of my songs were like about waiting and, what do I have to do to, do I have to be a perfect person just to even have a child? What if I don't even really want to have a child? These questions that go through your mind when fertility is an issue. Then we adopted. So there's songs about bringing him home. He's from Ethiopia. So I have songs wondering where his mom is, what she's thinking, is she singing to him? And, it completely changed my writing. One album in particular that is mostly about him and kind of family. When I listen back, it's stylistically so different. It's so like kind of like straight down the middle. Didn't take a lot of chances creatively, but that's where I was. It was like, I want to make music, but I think my mind's on my kid, and I can't really, I can't even put it into words, but I just know that it was a really kind of straight down the middle album. It's called Wax and Gold. Um, and there's some really incredibly beautiful songs on there, but they're also just so like, they're not a typical Tracy Bonham quirky, weird creative, taking left turns kind of album.
And you're right, motherhood changes you, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so nice to have a musician and an artist like yourself. We're meeting you where you are, right, in your music. And so we can follow your journey through your lyrics, but also just through the melodies and the songs. And that's just music to me is something that I'll never understand why it does what it does to me.
Mm.
But there's always some kind of song or melody or something that's going to help me through whatever time in my life is happening at the moment. Whether it's angry or happy or sad, something is going to be there for me. It's the most consistent thing in the world, I believe,
Wow.
is music.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, the change in songs and everything else. And this year is the 30-year mark of Mother. So I was listening to, I think you were talking to Matt Pinfield, who he's somebody from my childhood. Like when I
Right.
just see his face or hear his voice, I'm like, it just takes me back,
Totally.
like,
Totally.
and you were talking to him about how, this is the 30th year. So you're doing a residency,
Mhm.
where it all began, residency,
Yeah.
in Boston. I think your first one Sunday, correct?
Yeah.
About the burden of being upright.
Mhm.
What are you most excited about that? Because I know that, I don't know. Let me rephrase that. I think that a lot of times when we talk to somebody of your stature and we talk about your music, a lot of people are like, I don't want that one song to define me.
All right.
But we all loved that song, especially as an angry teenager.
Mhm.
Didn't really understand it then, and then in the video, your mom's there, and you're trying to put two and two together. Why now? Why 30 years? Why are we bringing this up and doing it again and
Mhm.
letting us 90s teenagers relive that feeling that we got when we first heard the song?
Right. Well, yeah. I think that there's a need actually for this kind of energy, especially for young women right now. Whether it's anger, whether it's the inner fire, whether it's just empowerment. The pendulum swung back again, and we were really on the precipice to kind of, I mean, we almost had a female president twice. Oh my god, it's going to make me cry. And then what we're going through right now, I can't even really go there. It's so awful. But that external power, masculine power, is so out of control. And I think that an album like that, or, the stories that I'm going to tell, what I'm hoping is that it's going to connect with women, young women, or, any age, honestly. My goal is to somehow light a fire within all of us of confidence, bravery, courage, and empowerment, to withstand and to fight back, honestly, because we're in a time now where we've never really had to fight like this. I mean, we're really fighting in this country. And I'm just hoping that it'll inspire the energy of this album, my song, but also the rest of the album and the stories that I tell live. I'm really excited about developing this show that talks about my experience, but about like how it's common and how I want to really connect with other women. Definitely in this day and age, I think it's necessary. And I'm also very excited because my song Mother Mother was featured in Yellow Jackets.
Mhm.
Right. And all these other amazing badass women from the 90s are on that soundtrack and in the show. And it's got it like there's a resurgence, which makes me feel so cool. I love it. And I don't quite feel like a dinosaur. I kind of feel like there's younger people that are looking up to me and also these other women. And it's like such an honor. I am so completely moved. And so I want to take this opportunity to help inspire more than I ever have, actually.
I just got chills when you said that because I see it too.
Mhm.
This big, you know, we kind of make fun of it when you walk into a Target or somewhere where, oh my gosh, now 90s clothes are there. By the way, I never stopped wearing them. Like I'm 90s through and through. But I loved the 90s because I loved that time of we started to have our voice. And you're right. The climate of our country right now is just not conducive to being a strong woman.
Yeah.
What I love about this is when we were younger, we were always told that getting older is just, you're just done. After 40, we're packing it up, we're throwing it away. Now these younger women are looking at us going, I want to be that. Not I'm just going to throw it up, throw in the towel. I want to be
Mm.
that when I'm 50, 60, 70. And it is so refreshing to see. And it's honestly the reason I started this podcast, because we have a voice now,
Yeah.
right? And we can talk about it, but we can also help those women who maybe when we were in our teens, we didn't have anybody like that to look up to, because I'm kind of in the same boat with you where we grew up where women held everything in.
Yep.
We didn't have a voice. So when you're singing these songs and when you're going to go do this show, do you understand the woman who wrote that first album differently? Or do you relate to her?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I do feel like this is a perfect place. I'm going to Boston where it all started, but also where I was going through really a very destructive relationship, abusive relationship. I feel like I'm going there to heal myself. And that young woman, gosh, luckily it didn't get too bad. It's not like, my story isn't like the worst of the worst, but it could have been bad. This boyfriend who's no longer with us in the world, even, it could have gotten bad. And what am I trying to say? I love that I'm going back to Boston to kind of reconnect with that young woman who wrote this album and who wasn't able to leave the relationship without, really having a lot of bruises and scars, like not really physically too much, but just more like emotional scars that haunted me for a long time. So I am definitely connecting to that, because the woman that wrote Mother Mother and The Burdens of Being Upright had a lot of inner fire, but it was so conflicted. It was like, I can't speak up. I can't stand up for myself because I'm going to be viewed as this or this or this, or I'm going to might get myself in trouble or I might get myself hurt. It was really a scary time. So I'm really happy to kind of like connect the circle or connect the dots.
And heal yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Really
Do
selfish.
you, no, not selfish at all, because you're speaking about it too. So you're giving, in a way, you're giving other women permission to do the same thing. Like, it's time to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
We're allowed to. We're allowed to heal. We're allowed to have these thoughts and take care of ourselves, because we've spent our lives taking care of everybody else. Whether you're a mother or not, whether you are, in an industry or have a career or not, we're always taking care of somebody else. And this is the time to take care of ourselves.
Yep.
Do you think that your audience sees you differently now, or do they, when you're looking out at the audience, when you're putting on these songs and in these shows, do you get a different vibe, or is it the same audience that it was 30 years ago, just a little bit older?
Oh, wow. I think it's different. I mean, the audience 30 years ago, mosh pits, a lot of dudes with baseball caps, a lot of young women, but it was, I would say, much more male energy. Because my album was visceral, it was edgy, and I think it really spoke to a lot of dudes, which is great. And it didn't cater, or it didn't do the like I'm sexy, which I'm very proud of. And so I think it felt like, that it was like, what the demographic was, like males 18 to can't remember what the demographic is, even 18 to 25 or whatever. It was pretty heavily skewed there. And yet, again, I wasn't like writhing around like, with my tits out or anything. So definitely different nowadays. We're all older, but then there is this resurgence of younger people. And my favorite thing is when like a generations come, like a mother and a daughter, they're both fans. That is so rewarding. It makes me really happy when that happens.
I love it. Awesome. So, mother and daughter, speaking of, your mother was in your video.
Yeah.
When she first heard this song, because, art and music is subjective, right? And everybody can feel differently, even with lyrics. You may have written them one way, but somebody else may have interpreted them completely different.
Yeah.
What did your mom think?
Well, the story is like, so it's so funny because it's like art imitate life, imitate art, when I wrote the song, I was nervous about her hearing it. And I had a bunch of, demo tapes, much like this one with my artwork that I made it like, I don't even know if there was a Kinko's at that time. I don't remember how I did it, but like, isn't that cute? And so I brought home some demo tapes to home in Eugene, Oregon, and I had them in my suitcase. And let's see, this was still during a time when my mom was kind of snoopy, and I didn't like this, and I actually wrote about it. I just found a passage in my 14-year-old journal, when I was 14, where I didn't like that my mom snooped in my room, and I was like, she's probably going to read this someday. She would go in there, and so this is like now when I'm 25 or something, I came home to visit. I had the cassettes in my bag, and she went in and snooped, and she saw that there was a song title called Mother, Mother. And she brought it out into the kitchen. She's like, what is this? Do you need to tell me anything? And I had been, it's just like in the song where I can't tell her the truth. Mm-hmm. I was hiding really how I felt. So I said, okay, Mom, I don't think it's not bad. It's not a angry, I hate your mom song, but I'm just a little bit worried about you hearing it and taking it the wrong way. So we made an agreement that she was going to listen to it on her own and then tell me what she thought later. And so like the next day, I was like, Mom, what did you think? And she went, oh, it's theatrical. I love it. Aww. I was like, fee you. Oh my God. So then I knew like, and she's a theater person, so absolutely open-minded about it. And so I loved that I could actually have her in the video as well. And she had a blast and she was like loving being the star.
Now that you're a mother,
Mm-hmm.
and you listen back to those lyrics, because I think that's a lot of us, right? We placate our parents sometimes when we leave the house, and yes, I'm good, mom. Everything's good. No need to worry about me. When really, you're out back drinking some kind of jungle juice out of somebody's trunk. Has that perspective, like, have you thought about that with your son and what's going to happen when he grows up, and
Oh yeah.
how are you going to handle it?
Oh my God. I mean, I guess it's really like payback, right? They say. Yeah, my mom would be like, just wait till you're a mother. And here I am. Yeah, he's 15 and he's getting himself into a little trouble here and there. He's a really good kid. But yeah, if he's gonna, leave, and go live somewhere else and then call me at home and say everything's fine, I'm not gonna believe him. um and I'm just hoping, like, he's 15, so I have like what 3 more years to continue this relationship where we have open communication.
Mhm.
um I think that's biggest my biggest I guess value over anything else is to stay connected with my son emotionally, and he knows that he has someone he can confide in and trust. I think that's really incredibly important. And luckily, he's still connected with me. And so I'm just hoping that we can keep this great relationship as he gets older and goes out into the world.
Yeah. And you will. You'll
So,
get the one-word texts or the,
totally, I'm already doing that.
I'm like, okay, well, I love you too. I don't
Right.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
um, when we talk about your voice and how your lyrics and your music has changed and everything, your last album, Sky Too Wide, how do you think that has kind of, how did it change from your first album? And then and I do want to talk about the Christmas song, by the way, but we talk about reinvention and everything else, and you were a classically trained, like you were about classical music, and then came up in the 90s with these songs. What about Sky Too Wide? Can we talk about that quickly, and how that kind of came out of you as an artist in midlife now?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think for a long time. Oh, okay. So I got divorced a second time. I had a marriage to, wow, it was a very difficult and lonely marriage, honestly. And I kind of started questioning things like early on, and it sucked because I really wanted to have a baby and wanted to start a family. And so I just kept my head down and we brought home our son and everything. And just unfortunately, the relationship with my ex-husband it was really hard. And so there was a dry spell creatively for a while. I mean, I did a kids album with my music education stuff, but when it came to like Tracy Bonham stuff, I really wasn't putting much effort, and I kind of thought my career was over. When I got married and my ex had a job, like a real job, I now I regret it, but I just kind of assumed that I would just be housewife. I would stay at home more. Of course I did. I raised, I was the primary parent while he was off working, like, many, many, many hours. And so when it became time, like, it was really, really obvious to me that I had to break it off. And it took me years and years and years and years to break it off. He didn't want to break it off, but he also knew that the marriage was dead. So it was a really tough exit, really awful, and excruciating. When I finally got some space from it, I separated and we were still going through the awful divorce. I was able to kind of think, okay, I want to reclaim, my life, not only my career, but reclaim my life, reclaim my creativity. And so the songs that I had been, I'd do little gigs here and there, and some of them would be solo gigs and some of them would be duo, just little things here and there. My songs and the songwriting and the arrangements just really took a turn, like they changed. And I started playing more piano. I think I was playing more piano because I have a neck issue from playing violin for so long, and guitar hurts. So I started playing more piano, and then that's where the classical influence from my upbringing started to weave its way into my writing, but also my arranging. Even if it's an older song, like from the year 2000, I rearrange them for they sound more classical. And then I started thinking about string arrangements and stuff. So that's Sky Too Wide was really coming out of that reinvention of my music and of myself. I felt like I was climbing out of that divorce and that relationship. And then, of course, I knew it was going to happen. And people told me, if you hold stuff in long enough, it's going to make you sick. Damn it. I found out I had breast cancer. And, I thought about my mom who had also had breast cancer. And I knew in my mind, I was like, it's because she's holding shit in, I don't really know that, but, you definitely wonder. Right. So that is how that album came to life. It was like a healing process.
Healing as in you're cancer-free now?
Yes, I am.
Which is, congratulations, it's wonderful. My mother also, she had breast cancer. She battled with that, and she's cancer-free as well. But I'm lucky enough to not have gone through it myself, but I know, I can see firsthand what happens to people when they go through it. And you were kind of on the fence about speaking about it. I think I listened to a podcast that you were on not too long ago. I think the podcast happened a few years ago, but I just listened to it, where you were like, oh, should I say it? Because if I say it, does that mean I'm getting a lot of attention? Mm-hmm. But you use your voice for good. Mm-hmm. And you were talking about how we need to go out and get mammograms. And there are certain mammograms that you would have never found it.
Right.
If it wouldn't have been for doing this. So thank you for speaking up about that, because women, we have to be advocates for ourselves in the healthcare system, because that's a whole nother topic and conversation for another time. But I know firsthand how much we can kind of be brushed away in the healthcare system. So thank you for talking about that. You also use your voice for so much good right now, in a time where we're told to shut up and told what to do with our bodies and what we can and can't do. And I think that we're in a time where people say, and I've seen it. I mean, I love music and I follow so many bands. Dave Matthews Band is one of my favorite bands. I've seen him a lot, and he's very outspoken when it comes to the political comment. And more and more I'm seeing, oh, you just stick what you're good at. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about this. But you do. You talk about it, and you talk about it passionately, and you don't back down. So tell me, what do you say to people who want to talk but are afraid to? Somebody who may have a platform, but they may not. These women who are holding it in because they're afraid they're going to be judged or ridiculed for their beliefs or what they stand for. What would you say to them right now?
Wow. Well, I can really relate, because it's funny that you say that. I don't feel like I actually really use my voice in all ways. Like, I'm still struggling with what to share, what not to share, how far to go, because it's scary, and you don't want to be like, you don't want to lose your followers. It's so conflicting. But I would say, wow. What would I say? I think it's important to share our voice and not be afraid of, it just takes so much courage and confidence. So it's almost like I want to go back and help women believe in themselves first. Right. But I can't do that with every, woman out there. But, to really believe in yourself, to not give a if you can, I mean, this is easier said than done, not give a flying fuck about what other people think of you, especially if you check your heart and you check your intentions and your motivations and you know that they are pure, right? I mean, that's a kind of something I'd love to instill. If I teach young kids, if I teach young women, it's really about like going back and knowing that your intention is good first. You got to be careful if you feel like you're just doing this just because everyone else is doing it, that might not lead you to the right place. You really have to figure out what your heart is saying. And then, again, I'm telling myself this all the time. It's the hardest thing for me to do for some reason, but just say it out your face. My boyfriend is always saying, say it out your face. Just boom, shoot it out. And I don't know why, but it's still, I'm struggling with it so much. So if I could impart that, we're all in this together, then, maybe I could get some inspiration from other young people too, is just say it, be yourself, love yourself. It's one thing to just say like, have confidence. Sometimes those are just words. You're just like, okay, how do I do that? It takes a lot of inner, like focus on what's in here instead of what is out there. Yeah.
I always say confidence comes after action, but when we're talking about these sensitive subjects for some people, it can be scary. And you had said in a video that you were always afraid to say anything because you wanted to get all of the facts first. You wanted to get it all before you talked about how you felt, and you stopped doing that. And I think that's so amazing, because when the first thing that comes to our mind is usually how we feel, right? And the way other people feel about us, it's not our business. So if somebody wants to not listen to my podcast anymore because I'm passionate about something, then that's on them. But I just, as much as you say that you don't think that you have it, your videos, when you were so heartfelt talking about the people of Minneapolis, and just, you can tell it comes from a good, pure place, and it's not for the likes and the clicks and the follows and everything else. And your true fans know you. They know what you're about. They know your true intentions, and they're not going to stop listening or following you because you are who you are. And I think that's so important for people to understand, is you have to love yourself enough to be able to stand up for yourself in situations like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's a very long road, but it's really true.
Yeah. And, especially us 90s kids, we love looking up to the people that we grew up with. I mean, we grew up with your music. We grew up listening to, and dressing the part, right? The grungy part. And I remember my mom always saying, oh, you're really going to wear that. And now
Totally.
I just went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with my husband a couple months ago, and I literally looked like I came out of a 90s music video.
It's so funny. I think about that a lot too. I'm just like, am I too old for this? Like, do I, like, even this, I'm just like, how am I perceived? Because I still feel like I'm young, but then when I see myself, sometimes I'm like, am I going to be taken seriously?
I think we're in a different time now, Tracy. I think that we can dress how we want, and we can say what we want, and we can do what we want, and we're getting a voice, and we're using our voice. And it's people like you who have this platform that help me, but also younger women, be able to do this, be able to dress how we want, and be able to say, my life's not over at 40 or 50 or 60. I'm going to keep going, and I might reinvent myself. Who knows? Next year I may be Jem and not Jen,
Yeah, exactly. I love what you're saying about the midlife and beyond. Is like, I think the more we chip away at this patriarchy, honestly, because that's where we've gotten conditioned to believe that when we get to a certain age, we are less and less valuable, but not the men. It's never the men. And that is a patriarchal conditioned belief that we are chipping away at. And I think you're right. It's so beautiful and so amazing. And I just hope that it continues. I really, really do.
Yeah. I've just always had this thing for strong female leads, whether it's music or in a movie, like, and it just, the Michelle Pfeiffer and Dangerous Minds, it just, like, those are the things that just make me want to do more. It makes me want to do more. So please keep doing what you're doing. I want to hear about your residency quickly, and then I have an important question for you.
Oh,
So
okay.
tell me about your residency. First off, I know that you were doing some city winery stuff, and you were in. I'm in Pittsburgh, and you were in Pittsburgh,
Oh, okay.
and I wasn't around to see it. We were on vacation,
Oh,
so
bummer.
I hope that you do another.
Oh, yes, Pittsburgh. I think there is something on the horizon. I think so.
Good, good. Well, I will be there.
Okay.
Let's talk about the 30-year
Sure.
shindig.
Yeah. It's like coming up on the 30th anniversary. Like I think my album was released in March, but I'm not gonna be like, boom, it's only that. It's gonna be the whole year. And I am starting off with this residency in Boston, right? And we spoke about that. It's like where it all began. And there's 4 shows. It's one a month. It's like February 22nd, March 22nd, April 19th, and May 17th, right? I also have a show in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, at this beautiful theater called the Kate, or the Katharine Hepburn Center of the Arts, or whatever, on April 15th. So all of these shows, I feel a little schizophrenic with this. It's definitely my ADD creative brain is not letting me rest, but each show is going to be different. Uh, my first show in Boston on Sunday will be very DIY 90s, like me, my violin, some old pedals, my old amps, like everything is like not even working properly, but my guitar, and it's just solo. And I'm gonna show up and really just try to recreate the vibe of me in the 90s showing up with my guitar at like this. There is a venue called Middle East in Boston, and they have several rooms, and they have a tiny little cafe, and then they have the bigger rooms for when you get bigger. And I'm thinking of like when I showed up and played that tiny little cafe, and it was all DIY, and I had my little cassette tapes and stuff like that. I'm loving revisiting that whole era, because it, again, like you're saying with the 90s, it's like it was such a great time. I didn't even realize it. I was in it, and I had no idea how special it would be, because I had no idea how things would change so drastically. It was before big corporations took over the music business, and radio in general. So all the artists that I knew of were encouraged to be unique. And, there was, and honestly, this, again, I keep saying this, but this demo tape, 2 songs on it were played on the radio. Like that doesn't happen anymore. That stopped happening soon after. No radio stations played demos. So I'm looking forward to having that kind of vibe. I know where I'm playing. It's called, the venue is called the Burren, Burren. And what I'm told is it's very similar to that community kind of place where you just show up and you're like guaranteed to see something cool, where live music, again, like those venues don't really exist much anymore. Gone are the days where you like open up the newspaper. This is what we used to do: open up the newspaper and look at all the listings and go, oh cool, all these bands are playing, I'll hit this one and this one and this one, and go club hopping. That doesn't happen anymore. So I want to recreate that for the first night, and then the preceding nights will be different. I have a string quartet, really amazing string quartet joining me. And I will be doing the Burdens of Being Upright songs arranged for string quartet.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's totally interesting. And also, but it'll have the same fire. I will be still like telling these stories about, empowerment and healing, and, and I'll be screaming, whatever it is, whatever I feel like, it's still going to have that same power. And then the third night, I'll be inviting, I know I have Tanya Donnelly coming from Belly, and Gail, her bass player from Belly, Gail Greenwood. And I've got some other tricks up my sleeve. Hopefully I could get some more guest artists to show up from that era. And then the final show on the last one on May 19th, whatever, May 17th, big rock band. And I'm compiling, it's like people from the Boston scene. My old bass player and some other Boston players, we're just going to rock out for the final one, just like the Burdens of Being Upright. So I'm so excited. That's the launching pad for the rest of the year.
Oh, I'm so excited to see what you do in all these shows, and hopefully you can come to Pittsburgh. But I'm gonna find a show where I can get to, because I've always wanted those little venues and things were something that I grew up on too. You know, still like in the Pittsburgh area, we have the Mr. Smalls and the things like that where we can go and see these shows, but it isn't like it used to be. So I love that you're bringing it back. And I hope that a lot of other people follow, because that's such a fun time.
Yeah.
So my most important question for you is,
okay,
when Tracy is feeling just blah, who is your artist that you go to? What do you put on? What is your mother song?
Oh, like what gets me through? Oh, it could really be. It's like a wide range of things, though. So it's like, if I'm gonna just screw it, I'm going out for a walk, and put on my headphones or whatever. I still think it's gonna be Radiohead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's important. Those artists, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are. And just, again, takes me back, but like there are those certain songs that you hear that you maybe heard on the radio for the first time. And I remember having to like, okay, can I hit record with my cassette so that I can tape that and then figure out the lyrics and then go back? Oh, it was just much simpler times. And you're right, when we were back in them, we should have just knew what we had back then.
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to link everything in the show notes so everybody knows where to find you. Tracy, I am so thankful that you took the time out to talk to us today. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you so much, Jen. This is really a great interview. Amazing.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Wow. Oh, I love it. Conversations like that, they're just my favorite, because they remind me why I started this podcast in the first place. I mean, we grew up being told to be smaller, to not be angry, to not be loud, to not take up space. And yet, the women we grew up listening to, the ones whose music shaped us, they were doing exactly that. They were screaming, they were writing, they were processing their pain out loud. And now, 30 years later, they're still here, still evolving, still speaking. I love that Tracy isn't trying to be the same woman she was in 1996. She's not stuck there. She's healing, revisiting, reclaiming, and using her voice in new ways. And friends, that's the midlife edit. That's the point. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. Send it to your daughter. Send it to your mom. Send it to the woman who needs permission to say it out of her face. To say all the things. To heal out loud. Send it to your best friend when you were 15 and be like, oh my gosh, listen to this. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for writing your own damn chapter. I'll see you next time.